Okay folks, just wanted to do a quick tutorial video on how the Benjamin Bulldog trigger assembly works. This is our hammer inside. This is our spring that's behind it. Comes in right down here. This will go in first, and then our spring behind it. So as we cock the gun, the bolt pulls back and slides into this and pulls it back. So as it pulls it back right here, it's going to contact this ramp, and as it does, it's going to kick this down. Let's see if I can get all this. So it's going to kick this down, and the trigger is armed. So see if I can let it go completely without this flying off the end. So this trigger is actually 3 stages. So one, because it's a bullpup, we have our linkage here, and that linkage is adjustable. So you can adjust the linkage in your first stage on how much slack you have in there. There's a spring in there that keeps the trigger pulled forward, and you can adjust that until this is pretty much anywhere you want, or there's slack in it, there's no slack, or you can pull it down to here and get rid of this, what I will call the second stage or middle stage. The second stage to me is anywhere between here and here, depending on, and actually it can't go but about there, so it's there to there. So, and then the next stage is going to be from the time this contacts to the time that this sear releases. And let's see, I'm going to hold this up. You can see that can be quite a long trigger drag. Okay, catch it again. Now there's other videos out there, and like I believe it's Mr. Hans. He's done a lot of work on his trigger. He has taken this section down so that it's a more gradual, instead of a click, there it is, and you have a hard next stage. He has taken that down so that it's pivoting off of this. Now that will make the trigger pull easier. It really will, but you still have this long pull before that trigger falls. So another thing that you can do is you can actually trim this edge right here back a little bit so that it doesn't have to go so far before it falls off. You want to make sure that you polish this top edge up here and this bottom edge of this, so that as these pull, they're nice and smooth and glass-like. You want it smooth as butter. Some very light oil on there is also a good idea. You also want to make sure that this is polished really good, and the front edge right here of your hammer, so that as this slides down the hammer, which is not going to be much, but it will slide down, that it falls off. So I just let my tension on my spring here fall off, and okay. So if you take this area here down, that will make the trigger easier to pull, because your pivot is further, your contact point is closer to the center of your pivot, and it's just angle of leverage, things like that makes it easier to pull. But it's also going to be longer because you're not contacting closer to this pivot. So there's different choices here you can make. This needs to be polished, and the surface of this needs to be polished. This surface here needs to be polished. This surface here needs to be polished. And this surface underneath here on the bottom needs to be polished. Back here, it's not going to hurt anything to polish them, but we're just springs moving that much. It's not It's not much. So let me pull this off here. So this top edge here needs to be polished, and then it contacts the bottom edge here. You can actually see a little bit of shiny, so that's where that needs to be polished. This is your contact, and it's not really important, but I always do polish that because it contacts the hammer just like that. And as it comes down, it releases the hammer, and it does have to drag, and you can see that is not smooth metal, so that'll make your hammer easier also. Anyway, just a quick tutorial on how that works, what's going on, and different things to try. And I will polish all this stuff and put it back together, and we'll go from there.